Today, we're going to talk about sleep, the benefits of sleep, why you should sleep, and also 10 different ways that you can implement to start getting better sleep starting tonight. And let's dive into it. So, the first thing that I want to talk about are the benefits of sleep. I think a lot of the benefits of sleep actually come in the form of lack of consequences that our body might experience from sleep deprivation. What I mean by that is that when we don't get enough sleep, our bodies suffer a lot of negative effects. This includes impaired motor and cognitive function, so our bodies and our brains don't work as well as if we had gotten enough rest. On top of that, an increased caloric intake. Our bodies almost just want more junk food when we are not getting as much rest as needed there. So if you're trying to lose weight or trying to maintain a healthy lifestyle, getting in enough sleep is really going to impact your diet as well. On top of that, lack of sleep can mess with your mood and your stress regulation, which means that you tend to be a little more irritable, and whether you're experiencing stress from work or from your life, your body's just not going to be as prepared to handle that on the days where you're waking up from a lack of sleep. And finally, lack of sleep in the short term weakens your immune system, which means that you're a lot more likely to get sick or catch some kind of cold or virus during the days that you're not getting enough sleep. On top of those short-term consequences, there are a ton of long-term health risks that are associated with long-term lack of sleep. And this includes various cancers, heart diseases, messes with your blood pressure, and honestly, like countless things that if you went down the list, you can really start to understand why like the benefit of sleep is not just feeling good and waking up feeling well rested, but actually in trying to avoid a lot of these health risks that end up showing up from long-term lack of sleep. So let's go ahead and dive into 10 different ways that you can implement to start improving your sleep starting tonight. And the first one is going to be exposure to sunlight. So sunlight regulates our circadian rhythm, or it's one of the things that regulates our circadian rhythm. That's just what people describe as an internal clock inside of our body that regulates a lot of the small processes and functions that our body needs to carry out throughout the day. It's almost as if once that sunlight hits our eyeballs and enters our system there, it signals to the body it's morning time and let's get everything up and going. So what I would recommend is shooting for around 30 minutes of sunlight exposure throughout the day. The closer you can get that to the time that you wake up, the further you can kind of like anchor that time as the start of day for your circadian rhythm there. I know it's not always possible for you to wake up and just go sit outside under the sun for 30 minutes. So a couple of ways that I found to be helpful in implementing this is when I have my coffee, I'll have it outside, get some sun while I kind of catch up on emails or just prepare for the day. On top of that, if I'm having my meals, whether it's breakfast or lunch, I'll go out and maybe just sit out in the parking lot and hang out and eat my food there. So I get a little extra sun exposure. And whenever I have a chance and I'm doing some work that maybe requires a little more thinking, I'll go ahead and take a lap down the street and back. That walking helps get my body moving a little bit, and at the same time helps stack my sun exposure to try to get to that 30 minutes that I'm shooting for every single day there. Now the second thing, temperature regulation. This one is really important because when our body drops into different phases of sleep, it's usually sitting at a lower core temperature than we are operating at throughout the day. So our bodies are warmer throughout the day and cooler when we sleep. Now, if your environment is not cool enough to support that, then your body temperature might stay elevated, which makes it a lot harder for you to fall into those deeper zones of sleep. So generally, what's recommended is somewhere between 60 to 67 degrees Fahrenheit while you are sleeping. Now, this varies a lot between people. It's also a preference thing. Some people tend to run a little hotter, and some people tend to run a little cooler. So you have to play around with this to figure something out. Now, a couple ways to implement this is one, just turn on a fan. Wind chill does help reduce the temperature that it feels like inside of the room without really having to adjust the temperature. So that alone might help you out. Now, if you are in the summer or in a hotter area of the world, you might want to consider throwing on the air conditioning, set it to somewhere between 60 to 67. You can play around with that number just to get a better understanding of like, hey, what is my preferred temperature for sleep? And then on top of that, there are some mattresses or mattress covers that allow you to actually regulate the temperature of your bed, which is really cool. But I would only recommend those for people who might feel, or people who feel that their sleep is strongly affected by the actual temperature. Like if you run hot all the time, this might be something that really helps you out there. And besides keeping a cool temperature inside your room, making sure you have a consistent schedule to follow when it comes to your sleep routine. That means trying to go to bed at the same time every evening and waking up at around the same time every morning as well. This kind of ties back to that whole circadian rhythm thing I was talking about earlier in this video, in that our sleep also regulates our circadian rhythm as much as our circadian rhythm is regulated by our sleep. So allowing your body to go to sleep at the same time each night, your body knows that, oh, it's time to sleep, and then I'm gonna slowly do the things that I need to do to get me into each phase of sleep, whether it's your deep sleep, your REM, each of those different phases throughout your sleep cycles. So making sure you have that consistent schedule is gonna allow your body to work a little easier in providing you quality sleep, not just quantity. The next one I'm going to talk about is making sure we get at least 30 minutes of exercise each day. It seems that strength training does happen to be a little more effective at promoting good sleep compared to cardio, but either or, getting 30 minutes of exercise a day is, I think, just like a really healthy lifestyle habit that we should all pick up. And of course, for the benefit of this video, you get to sleep a little better there as well. And the next one is unwinding before bed. I find this one really important for myself in that sometimes, especially with the work from home culture, it's very easy to kind of like work up until you're getting ready for bed and just flip the laptop off and then jump into bed. The issue with that is a lot of times when we're doing productive work, our mind is like just going, and then it's hard to switch right from that state of like productivity and thinking and working right into a state where we're like relaxed and rested and ready to knock out. At least for me, that's really hard to do. So I find that like if I don't give myself at least maybe an hour's time before cutting off work and going to bed, then my mind's just like going nonstop for the next 30, 60, sometimes 90 minutes there until my body does actually calm, or my mind actually calms down there. So try to shut off your work or try not to do anything productive before bed, and maybe just chill, read a book. We're gonna talk a little bit about electronics next, which is like, works for some people, doesn't work for all, but just find something to do where you can kind of unwind, relax a little bit before you dive into the bed. And the next one is avoiding electronics at night. Now, I think for some people this helps, some people it doesn't. The reasons why electronics might affect your sleep routine is one, some studies have shown that blue light exposure tends to push back melatonin response or melatonin release into the body. That's just a hormone that helps your body fall asleep. And one of the reasons why this might be a thing is because that blue light acts as a signal to our body telling us, oh, it's still daytime. Just in the same way that getting sunlight exposure early in the day is good for us because it kind of sets that beginning. Having that blue light on all night might be just like a signal to our body saying like, hey, it's still daytime, it's not time to sleep yet. And therefore the melatonin doesn't really start releasing until a little later into the evening, maybe when you're already asleep there. Now, personally for me, after doing some testing with some wearables and stuff like that, I don't find that like blue light exposure really seems to make much difference for myself. So I think this is also one that might depend like on an individual to individual basis as well. The other side of it is that sometimes when we're on social media or scrolling through our phone and just looking at things that we experience throughout the day, it gets our mind going and it kind of keeps us up. Same way as when we were talking about don't work too close towards bedtime, because it keeps your mind awake and it's just all this stimulus just kind of keeping you there when you really should be just resting and sleeping. Now, the next one, caffeine cutoff. So the way that caffeine works is it blocks a receptor to our system for a molecule called adenosine. Adenosine builds up throughout our day and pretty much makes us feel a little tired. That's why usually when we wake up in the morning, we feel pretty fresh and ready to go, or ideally if we got enough sleep, we would. And then throughout the day, we start to get a little more sluggish, and then towards the evening, we start to get tired and then want to go to sleep. That adenosine builds up, and when we sleep, take a nap, or our sleep at night, it kind of resets the adenosine, and then we start over fresh again. With caffeine, it doesn't get rid of the adenosine, but it blocks the receptors, so your body can't tell like how much adenosine is actually there, which is why we feel awake and like wired and focused when that caffeine is there. But at the same time, our bodies might not physically feel that same energy because it is somewhat tired. So why we want to avoid drinking caffeine later on in the day is because by blocking all of that adenosine, our bodies might not get tired, and it thinks it's like, oh, still fresh, still awake, we can keep on going, and it's hard to fall asleep in that state. As far as caffeine metabolism, different people absorb caffeine at different rates, so it could be staying in your system for anywhere between maybe 6 to 12 hours, some people maybe even a little longer than that. So the best way to address this is generally try not to have any more caffeine later on into the day. If you can cut it out by noon, so around lunchtime, that would probably be ideal for most people. The next one is don't drink alcohol too close to bedtime. Now, alcohol has long been used as a nightcap, and even though it might help you fall asleep a lot easier, it's shown to definitely negatively impact your phases of sleep, especially your REM sleep, your rapid eye movement sleep. It reduces the REM sleep that you get each night there. So making sure that if you are drinking, I mean, there's two solutions here. One is don't drink alcohol, which obviously is not ideal for most people. And two, just don't try to drink every evening before you go to bed there. If you do drink, try to keep at least like a 3-hour gap from when you finish your last drink and when you go to bed. Regardless, if you have any alcohol in your system, it's probably going to mess up your nights of sleep. So try to avoid it as best as possible there. When you do drink alcohol, make sure you're hydrated. That's definitely also one of the things that like people tend to dehydrate a lot when they drink, but that's probably for another video. Ninth is don't have large meals late into the evening. Now, when you're sleeping, your digestive system slows down and almost stops, which means that if you have a large meal at night, you're gonna experience some form of indigestion because your digestive system's almost like asleep, but all this food still has to move through. So your stomach's not gonna feel the greatest. You might toss and turn a lot more. I know for me, this one is huge. Like if I have any large meals or even eat like closer to bedtime, my sleep is just ruined for the night there. So I try to have my meals a little earlier in the day. For most people, a good rule of thumb is to have your last meal about 3 hours prior to when you're actually planning on going to bed. And the last one, don't take naps too late. Now, naps are actually a good thing, and I think they can be very beneficial for your focus, your productivity, and just kind of like a quick refresh halfway throughout the day. But if you have a nap too late in the day, kind of cycling back to the talk about adenosine, you're resetting the adenosine inside of your body, and it might be a lot harder for you to fall asleep at night, and that will just end up keeping you up later, so you get less sleep, and then you need more naps, and just becomes this kind of cycle of like you need naps, and the naps cause you to sleep later, which gets you less sleep, so you need the naps, and you have to keep on cycling through it that way. If you're trying to take a nap, it's usually recommended somewhere between 30 to 60 minutes, and try to keep a cutoff just like the caffeine. For me, I usually try to shoot for before 3 p.m. If it's after 3 p.m. and I'm a little tired, I might just like push through it, and I'm like, okay, I'll just shoot for the sleep later on rather than have the nap now and end up sleeping later in the evening as well. So those are 10 different ways that you can start implementing. The way that I would approach it, I would not try to do all 10 things all at once because it's a lot. And like I said, for me, I've noticed some things help a lot more than others. So it's best to test them one at a time and see, oh, how do I feel? What's the effect on my sleep? And is it actually helping me? Otherwise, like I had a phase where I was walking around with blue light blockers and looking weird all night, and I don't think it really helped me out. So try it out, test 1 or 2 at a time, give it a week or 2, and let me know if it helps. Hope this video was helpful. That's a lot of helps. Thanks.